Hey, it's Coach Jake here out in Eminence, Indiana, home of the Dustbowl 100, Indiana's only 100-mile gravel race. The race takes place this July 27th. We're going to discuss 4 training tips that are going to help you with your Dustbowl this year. First, cornering. 2, pack riding skills. 3, your power climbing. And 4, we'll discuss your equipment choices with your tire selection. So why don't you join me on course and let's talk about these things. Let's talk cornering. The Dustbowl course, by my count, has over 140 90-degree corners. So you will need to take that into account into your training. A great workout you can do to prep for this is sweet spot burst. Do this by riding at your sweet spot pace and doing it in a hard acceleration like coming out of a corner every 2 to 3 minutes. You can do these in intervals such as 2x20s, 4x10s with bursts every 2 or 3 minutes. The important thing with these corners is to remember that you're not always going to be taking the fastest line. What you're really looking for are the car tracks where it has cleared the gravel off. You really want to avoid being on the inside where a lot of this gravel accumulates. This is where you might puncture, and you also might get caught up into it and have to accelerate much harder just to get through it. It'll slow you down. And each time you slow down, it's going to be much harder to get going again. Now we're going to talk about group riding skills. Why is this important to the Dustbowl? Well, look behind me and around me. There's not much out here. Lots of wind, and there's not a lot of hills. I know we will talk about hills, but the hills aren't really what make the separation. The separation becomes from these constant accelerations out of the corners and from not being able to ride in the pack. So it's very important that you do group rides as you lead up into the Dustbowl. This will also help with the variability of the power with the corners. You will want to be able to stay in the draft and feel comfortable around several other riders and all this gravel and as your bike moves back and forth. So try to find group gravel rides or ride with a friend. Learn how to stay close to each other and draft. Here we are on course, coming up after the first covered bridge on course, up the hill. This is where it takes us to the hills. Nobody's ever said Dustbowl is hilly. It might only have 4,000 feet of elevation, but the little elevation it does make a difference. So you really want to train, not that 20-minute power, not that 10-minute power, not even the VO2 max of the 3 to 8 minutes. It's really that 30 seconds to 60 seconds power. But not only that, but you're going to be in a big gear usually up this gravel, keeping traction and seated. So you're going to do these seated hill climbs or efforts that are between 30 to 60 seconds in duration. So as you can see, more corners, except these are downhill into these covered bridges, which are along halfway point. The tricky thing about these corners are you're taking them at speed, and there's lots of shadows and light sections, so it's kind of hard to see. So you want to be prepared. If you don't, remember the race is not won here, but it could be lost. A lot of incidents seem to happen right here. So if you don't feel super confident, be in the front of the group so you can lead the speed. Or you're going to be towards the back, and then off the back as you come up the hills on the other side of this. So just be prepared to where they are and take your time. Remember, it's still a long race from this point. As you can see, there are tracks on course that make it pretty hard packed. Some of these rocks right here are some of the biggest that will be on course, but there's always usually a place to ride. So as far as tires go, I have my road bike with 30 mils, which I ride on course, which I find okay. For race day, you're probably going to want between a 35 and a 40 millimeter tire. If you're really good skills, you can probably go on the smaller side. If you have less skills and less confidence in your cornering ability on gravel, you might want something wider like a 40 millimeter tire. Well, those are my 4 tips for racing the Dustbowl 100. Remember your normal gravel racing tips such as hydration, nutrition, pacing, and etc. All those tips can be found through our podcast on the FasCat website. The 4 big takeaways from this are: 1, lots of corners. Great workout for that sweet spot burst. Number 2, pack riding skills. So get in those group rides. 3, hills. Even though there's not much hills, you will want to work on that seated hill strength, power between 30 and 90 seconds in duration. 4, equipment choices. Like I said, the perfect tire choice for this is between a 35 and 40 millimeter tire. You will want to practice your skills and on the setup you will be racing on. So make sure you get that in. That's all we have from out here today. Hope to see you in July.